What up? It's Bishop on Air, live with you on this Thursday morning, right? Let's check that date and time. Yep, okay. Back at it. Live here on YouTube, Facebook, X. Follow me anywhere. Just search Bishop on Air. Instructor Mike instructing you to please like the like button. So I appreciate that. Good morning to everybody. Dave, Bolinfish25, Scrubby Door, Tenebris, David, Mario, good morning, guys. I'm your Huckleberry. Good morning. So those are just some of the people checking in live this morning. Greatly appreciate you guys being here. And what a tremendous showing you guys have had here for Bishop on Air. Over 14,000 subscribers and just a matter of months and weeks, so greatly appreciate that. We got some stuff to tackle today. Of course, some action at the Illinois State House yesterday. They did cancel today's session for both House and Senate. So they won't be in session again until February 6th. But a couple of things brought up, including the ongoing migrant crisis, plus an interesting proposal or two about how to incentivize local journalism. So we'll touch on some of that as well. But we're also going to connect with former state representative Jeannie Ives. She's got a petition out there with the group Parents Matter Coalition, dealing with parents and what kind of decisions they should be able to maintain for their children when it comes to a variety of different medical procedures. So we'll talk with Jeannie Ives about that coming up just about 7:50 this morning, so stay tuned. But we got to talk about Governor J.B. Pritzker yesterday and some comments he made, so stay tuned. That's coming up next here with Bishop on Air. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. If you like what you're seeing, be sure to check out the merchandise. Get yourself a coffee cup, a Bishop on Air shirt, sticker, and so on. So appreciate everybody who helps that way as I broadcast from my home. So thank you guys for being here each and every weekday morning. Stay tuned. We got plenty more to get to.
First, they're expensive. Second, it's a fraction of the 2.4 million people who have FOID cards that have an assault weapon, many of them having multiples of them. And third, the rules hadn't really been approved until yesterday by the committee in the legislature. So now that all of that is said, I actually feel very confident that we're going to have the registration process working the way it should.
That was Governor J.B. Pritzker yesterday being asked about the gun ban registration and the numbers of FOID card holders that actually registered being 1.22% of the 2.4 million firearm owner identification card holders. We'll air all of what he had to say there in a moment, but he mentioned the rules that were approved on Tuesday by the Joint Committee on Administrative Rules, that legislative oversight body in Springfield. They met and they failed to prohibit the rules from going into effect, but Republicans did outnumber Democrats on that committee in supporting a formal objection to the rules. And I wanted to air again what that ultimately sounded like at the Joint Committee on Administrative Rules hearing Tuesday, just so you fully take in the language of that objection motion that did ultimately pass on Tuesday by the Joint Committee on Administrative Rules when it comes to the rules regulating the state's gun ban and registry.
Jaker object to the Illinois State Police rulemaking titled Firearm Owners Identification Card Act because the rulemaking does not meet the criteria under 1 Admin Code 220.900A2E, which requires a rule to be simple and clear so that the rule can be understood by the persons and groups the rule affects. The rule contains definitions that are subjective and open to broad interpretation by an enforcing jurisdiction, which leaves the regulated public without clear direction on how to comply with the rule.
By a vote of 6-5, that motion passes.
So again, the Joint Committee on Administrative Rules passing that formal objection, which formally says that the Joint Committee on Administrative Rules thinks that the rules are not clear and vague. And while this is not something that blocks the rules from going into place, those rules now in place, it ultimately says that they have an official objection on the record. And that could be something some observers have told me could be used by the courts when evaluating whether or not the rules are clear or not. So interesting to see that. Of course, that was on Tuesday. But Governor J.B. Pritzker yesterday was asked at an unrelated news conference about the registration rates, and he mentions Jay Carr ultimately approved those rules. So he says that now the registration, despite it being past the January 1st deadline, now the registration, he says, will work as it should. Here's the governor yesterday.
Well, don't miss the headline here. You can't buy an assault weapon or a high-capacity magazine in Illinois today. That's the headline. That's the bill that we passed. Now, as to people registering the guns that they already have, we've had quite a number of people do that. I know that people want to say, well, there are 2.4 million FOID card holders. 2.4 million people do not own assault weapons. First, they're expensive. Second, it's a fraction of the 2.4 million people who have FOID cards that have an assault weapon, many of them having multiples of them. And third, the rules hadn't really been approved until yesterday by the committee in the legislature. So now that all of that is said, I actually feel very confident that we're going to have the registration process working the way it should. And again, don't miss the big headline. You can't buy an assault weapon in the state of Illinois. So people who are intent on doing harm to other people and have been able to go do that nearly immediately in the state can't do that anymore.
The governor saying that, quote, assault weapons are expensive. Well, some others may say assault weapons are a political definition. Maybe he's referring to the semi-automatic firearms that were banned by state law. And if you look at some of the price ranges, I mean, the price for an AR-15 ranges from about $500 to about $1,700. I mean, depending on the manufacturer and the various accoutrements you want to add to the firearm. So interesting, he says that they're too expensive, but also highlighting that not everybody who has a FOID card has a banned item, and a variety of other things as well. And he also indicates that since the rules are now set, he anticipates the rules are going to be moving forward. Well, I guess we'll see ultimately, or the registration will continue. But the registration deadline was January 1st, and Illinois State Police have said they're going to keep that registration open despite that January 1st deadline spelled out in state law. But state police say that nothing in the law provides for penalties for those who fail to register before the January 1st deadline, or any late registrations. There's no criminal penalty spelled out in the law for that. However, if you're found with a firearm outside of the registry, then you can be charged with a first offense of a Class A misdemeanor, second offense a Class 3 felony. So we'll see how this plays out moving forward. But as this continues to move forward, you've got the Illinois State Rifle Association, Ed Sullivan. When I chatted with him on Tuesday, he shared that this is, quote, an assault on law-abiding gun owners.
Well, no, I think right now the rules are the rules. And so we know what the playing field is going forward. They're still kind of screwed up. I don't think they were ever going to get clean rules, quite frankly. And that isn't the fault of the state police. That is the fault of the people that wrote the bill. That is just a horrific attempt to, hurt law-abiding gun owners.
So the Illinois State Rifle Association, one of several plaintiffs groups suing the government over the gun ban and registry, with those lawsuits still ongoing and pending. What's also fascinating about this is you've got the state having to respond, I believe, tomorrow to the Fifth Amendment allegations against the gun ban. And that's in the Southern District of Illinois Federal Court, where you also have the challenge on the merits moving forward. They'll have a full status conference conference coming up in the first week of February on that, and some seeing that a trial on the merits could happen throughout June. So that's rather fascinating to continue to watch that. And I just wanted to make a note. I know a lot of you come here specifically for the information about the state's gun ban and registry. I'm an Illinois reporter. I'm at the Illinois State House regularly. I look at legislation regularly. And while, there's a lot of great information on some other channels, I do want to make sure you guys understand that they may not always get it right when looking at Illinois. In particular, there was a YouTube video not long ago from a very popular channel talking about Senate Bill 2619, saying that it had passed the Senate, and this deals with increasing the appropriations amount for Illinois State Police revocation program, and they go from $2 million to $10 million. They said that advanced out of the Senate. It has not. It's stuck in committee. Has not even advanced out of the Senate as a Senate bill before it even gets to the House. So just be cautious of what you're hearing about. That measure, Senate Bill 2619, was filed, last year and is stuck in committee. But other information I've heard about is, people having anecdotes of, gun dealers being visited by the ATF, scouring their books, taking pictures and whatnot. Well, I had a FFL reach out to me recently and share that they also had an ATF agent visit, but no pictures were taken, no notes were taken. It was just a visual inspection of sorts. And they said that the ATF agent was very friendly. So again, I just want people to be cautious out there. There's a lot of clickbait. There's a lot of really alarming headlines in some of these stories, but I'll do what I can to make sure that you get at least the most accurate information on this as we progress forward and see what happens. All right, so it's right here with Bishop on Air. Appreciate you guys being here each and every weekday morning. Of course, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and stay tuned as we continue on here in the land of Lincoln with Bishop on Air. All right, still to come, we will tackle some of the things that transpired at the Illinois State House from a new working group to tackle the issue of non-citizen migrants coming to the state of Illinois. We'll also take a look at a proposal or two dealing with the state of local journalism in Illinois, and some legislators looking at possible tax credits or looking at a variety of different things, including state taxpayer grants to organizations. And what that means for the First Amendment, I think, is rather interesting as well. So we still have that to tackle in moments. I'm going to join former State Representative Jeannie Ives to talk a little bit more about an effort she has underway to deal with parental choice in some things. So stay tuned. That's coming up here next with Bishop on Air. I'm Greg Bishop. Be sure to like, subscribe, and follow along, all right? We'll be right back with more. Jeannie Ives connecting with us right now. Stay tuned. The state of Illinois has, of course, a lot of regulations on a variety of things, but when it comes to issues like abortion or being able to change your gender, there's a lot of lax regulations, including being able to change your birth certificate, driver's license. And these are typically things you would think an adult, if it's their choice, they should be able to do that. But what about for minors, for children? Of course, Illinois already has on the books a law that removed parental notification of abortions. But what else is out there on the horizon? Former State Representative Jeannie Ives joining me right now to talk about a controversial issue for sure, and a petition drive to make sure that parents have ultimate choice when it comes to how their children live their lives. State Representative Jeannie Ives, thank you so much for taking time with us this morning. It's good to talk with you. I guess just go ahead and lay it out there for us. What are we looking at with the petition drive you're spearheading here?
Sure. So by citizen initiative, the only thing we really can do in this public policy area is ask an advisory question of the electorate. It's basically a polling question. And a friend of mine decided that he wanted to do something about the lack of parental rights, the way that they've been eroded in the state. So he wanted to put an advisory question on the ballot, and I decided to help him. And so we formed Parents Matter Coalition. And our advisory question is very straightforward, super easy to understand. It just says, should you have to get the written consent of a parent or guardian before you can do any non-emergency medical care, procedure, treatment, pharmaceutical, gender modification, gender counseling, or gender therapy to a minor in the state of Illinois? It's just that simple. And obviously it's common sense.
So, Representative, if you could, I guess, lay out there the current state of this issue in Illinois. Is this something that is already happening with minors getting either, gender reassignment surgery or receiving things like hormone therapies or other types of instances when it comes to the gender identity issues?
So when it comes to gender identity issues, there is still a prohibition that you can seek this type of gender modification or hormonal therapies without parental consent. But what is happening is that it is official state policy of the Illinois State Board of Education that you can socially transition children behind the parents' backs in our schools. That's their official guidance. It came out when J.B. Pritzker first took office, and a number of schools in our state have adopted those as their official policies, and we know it's been happening. In fact, we know it's been happening since at least 2015, even before the controversy became more controversial.
So what are we looking at as far as timeline here and the trajectory of your petition? Are you looking to get this on for the November ballot here in Illinois?
Yes, we are. We want it on the 2024 ballot. That means we need petition signatures, and our goal is 500,000 petition signatures. We need less than that, but we're aiming for 500,000 petition signatures, and we'd like to collect those by the end of March so that we can package it all together and then submit it to the State Board of Elections the first week of May in time for the 2024 ballot. That's our time frame. So we really need people to get involved. Just go ahead. You can download the petition and the instructions at our website, parentsmattercoalition.org, parentsmattercoalition.org. And you can just, by your own initiative, help us in this process.
Now, I know having covered the state of Illinois for years, when it comes to ballot initiatives, it's very difficult, as you know, to get initiatives on the ballot. I know the Fair Maps amendments, there were like 600,000 signatures filed or something to that effect, if not more. But that was ultimately knocked off the ballot. And you also have the hurdles of possibly only 3 questions to be asked to the electorate on a election like the November election. So I guess just talk about how to navigate some of these hurdles and the potential of people trying to block these questions from getting on the ballot.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is simply an advisory question. It's a polling question. It doesn't even actually change law. The only way that you can do that by having a ballot referendum is if the legislators themselves, which we have a super majority of Democrats and radical leftists, have taken over the Democrat Party in the state of Illinois. There's really no common sense leadership in the state anymore, but they will put on the most radical ballot referendums And if they do it via the legislature, then it can immediately become law. So the only thing we can even do is threaten them with a polling question. And oh my goodness, they will feel threatened if we get all these signatures. But in the process of doing this, we've already raised so much more awareness about how parent rights have been eroded by the state legislators. I mean, no longer do you even have to get notification from parents that parents have been notified before a minor can have an abortion. You can get hormonal birth control without parental consent. You can have your kids socially transitioned behind your back. And that's been happening. I mean, Jay Keck wrote an incredible article in 2019 in USA Today about how this happened to his daughter that he self-described is on the autism spectrum. And it happened to him right in the Hinsdale school district in a high school. And even though they had told Hinsdale, like, no, you'll call her by her proper name. You'll call her by her right pronouns. They did everything behind the parents' back to not do that. And he exposed it all. And so we just think this is nefarious. It's wrong. And there's no doubt that Illinois is an early adopter following California in terms of giving minors rights over their parents. And California is already headed the way of allowing minors to do gender transitioning hormonal treatments without parental consent. And we want to stave that off. So in the process of doing this, we hope to be successful, and we're working really hard to be successful. But I mean, there's no doubt that we're raising a lot of awareness about what the legislature has done to parental rights in this whole process of trying to get this question on the ballot.
Representative, adults are adults and they can make their own adult decisions. Children are, of course, have guardians as their parents or as guardians, looking over them. What do you think's behind this move? I mean, I get that, some who support this idea of allowing for adults to do what they want to do and maybe, fostering this sense of identity with a younger generation so they don't feel bullied or they feel more accepted. Is that really your understanding of the level of why this type of ideology is progressing more and more?
Well, I mean, I don't know why the leftists think that they should be the parent in every situation, but they do. They just think they have better ideas than the people themselves. And so it's not just in this regard, it's in every regard. They want to tell you what kind of car you have to drive, where your electricity can come from, how your business has to operate down to the minutia. And so and they just think that they know how to better parent than parents. I mean, it's the same thing with this new controversy that you all covered in Center Square about these health wellness checks on mental health, and how they literally, in the language of the bill, insinuate that if you're on Medicaid, then you definitely need to get a wellness check for your minor child on their mental health. I mean, that's insidious. That is so disrespectful of parents. And yet this is what the leftists are doing. They think they know better how to run society than the people themselves. And that's where this is coming from. They just want total control. And
you got to consider too the long-term effects of not just a young kid who may have some attention problems in school. A story that I have a friend who was graduated high school with, and he was just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Went off and tried to get into West Point Academy, but because he was given some ADHD type of medications earlier on in his childhood, that prevented him from getting into West Point. So you got to consider that the long-term consequences there, but that's just for mental health checks. I mean, what do you think the long-term consequences of giving adult decisions to children who are under the age of 18?
Well, we know what the long-term consequences are because the horrific stories are coming out about how minors were transitioned earlier, and now they look at themselves and they feel like they're a freak show, and they're having all sorts of medical issues. And I think that it's the devil's work. Truthfully, it really is the devil's work. And J.B. Pritzker and his family is 100% involved in this. This is something that Lurie Children's Hospital is all in about. They've received massive donations from the Pritzker family to hold that up. Hillsdale's and Primus did a really good expose on this 2 months ago. And people need to wake up. Pritzkers are heavily involved in this. It's big money. And And yet it's harmful to change, to even think that you can change your sex and to lead kids down this road of not accepting who they are and working through those challenges is just, I mean, honestly, I think that generations going forward will look back at us and wonder, why did we not stand up sooner?
And you've also got just the issue of, sports, which a lot of people are interested in, and how that's impacting kids with, people born as a man going and playing women's sports. So interesting to see all of this in the purview of how the legislature may respond. But, of course, you've got this petition drive. Tell people again where they can get information on that.
You can go to parentsmattercoalition.org. We have a number of articles posted. We have facts listed about it. You can get the petition, download it with the instructions. One more point about this, Greg, is that there are a number of states that are outright banning any discussion of gender modification for minor children. And they are outright, taken away the idea that you can have abortion at all for minors, or it's got to be very limited. And yet all we're asking is that you have to get the consent of the parent. This is not a radical idea. And we're finding a lot of support among different constituencies on the political spectrum. So it's been really fun to take on this initiative, and we look forward to success.
And then finally, as a former state lawmaker, I always appreciate getting the perspective of, now that you're outside looking in after having been inside the state legislature as a Republican in the now super minority. What do you think taxpayers need to look at, this issue aside about, the parental rights issue? Yeah. What, as, taxpayers, should they really be looking out for when it comes to, budget season coming up, the prospects of gun legislation, the prospects of, even here in a bit, we're going to just touch on a measure that could give tax incentives to, local journalist outfits, or even possible taxpayer-funded grants to media outlets. What are some of the things that you think taxpayers really need to keep their eyes on heading into the budget season?
Well, first of all, it's going to be a dicey budget season this year. Already, Pritzker's administration themselves has predicted that they may have a deficit of $700 to $800 million. Obviously, the COVID largesse is falling away, and they've got a lot more expenses, including with the illegal immigrant population that they're funding. So they've got a lot of problems. I would say taxpayers, hold on to your wallets, because it's very more likely than not that they could try to push down the pensions to the local level. That will decimate property taxes. That is always in the offing when the budget comes tight. So I think that's one of the concerns. My biggest concern is what we're funding, quite frankly. And so there's been zero transparency on exactly who's getting all the contracts to provide for illegal alien care. They gave $125 million to Goshen, that Chinese communist plant in Manteno, without them even having building permits yet. They just gave it to them up front. We should not be funding the communist Chinese, our number one adversary. We should not be funding illegal aliens at all. And so you should be very concerned about how they're spending your money, because it'll take away resources that you think should be go to core government services like security, infrastructure, and schools. So I think that's my biggest concern, is there's zero transparency on this. I'm also very, very concerned about the big government initiatives that we already have, from the wellness checks for mental health in grades 7 through 12, which is ridiculous on its face, to what you just talked about, funding the media. Are you kidding me? This party is the biggest disinformation folks in the history of the United States. I mean, they just finally admitted that Hunter Biden's laptop was actually his laptop. I mean, give me a break. So I think there's a lot of scary initiatives. Business is also really hurting. The BIPA bill, with a biometric processing bill that has created millions of dollars of fines for companies, has to be redone. So there's a lot of problems with this big government solution to everything.
Former State Representative Jeannie Ives, greatly appreciate you taking the time with us this morning, and let's connect again in the near future, all right?
Very good. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It is Bishop on Air. Greatly appreciate Representative Ives being here, and we'll definitely connect with her in the near future and keep you guys updated on this petition drive with Parents Matter Coalition. Again, parentsmattercoalition.org. You can get more information about that petition, and we'll keep track of how that's doing. Appreciate her time. All right. Stay tuned. We got plenty more with Bishop on Air. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and follow along. Democrats in the Illinois House starting a working group to focus on new arrivals, and Republicans saying that these working groups that are behind closed doors really should be out in the open so that the public can hear all of this. That's just one thing that took place at the Illinois State House yesterday, but you also had a report about the state of local journalism in Illinois. So a couple of things that we'll touch on here with a review of some of the things happening at the Illinois State House. But let's start with the migrant situation. Of course, the ongoing situation with how the state is receiving non-citizen migrants and what's going to transpire moving forward. If you follow me on X and also on thecentersquare.com, you'll find some of the latest headlines being that Democrats create migrant working group that Republicans say should be made public. So this idea is, of course, something that has come forward from the Democrat supermajority. I connected with State Representative Cam Buckner briefly on Wednesday to get his reaction, because he's on this working group of Democrats only. And the leader said that ultimately they hope to address some of the key issues impacting the state.
The main priorities are for the state to figure out how we can liaise between our local municipal governments around the state of Illinois who are receiving these asylum seekers and the federal government. I think the Senate President, the Speaker of the House, and the governor have been very clear that this is a federal priority. The United States Constitution grants exclusive rights to immigration and naturalization to the federal government, and we know we haven't seen enough from their branch of government. And so, I hope that we can find a way to bring some ideas together, both from a policy standpoint and a fiscal standpoint. We've got a lot of differing people with different backgrounds on this committee, and I'm looking forward to getting together to figure out how we can move forward.
So, talking with the representative from Chicago, asked about the timeline here. It's just the start of session. What are we going to see happen?
Yeah, this is a brand new idea. This thing is in its infancy, so I'm not sure about the mechanics of how it's going to work. But I think all of our work will be forward-facing. The people of Illinois will know what we're talking about, what we're doing, and whatever we conclude.
So, again, Representative Buckner also responding to what could be some criticisms I was anticipating, because this is just Democrats on the working group for new arrivals. There's no Republicans that have been named to this working group. And Republicans have traveled to the southern U.S. border to see things firsthand while they call for an end of sanctuary state status and a full review and full transparency of how tax dollars are being used for this. And Representative Buckner reacting to some of that anticipated criticism.
Yeah, this is a brand new idea. This thing is in its infancy, so I'm not sure about the mechanics. Listen, there's enough criticism to go around this place on everything. I'll say that, but I truly do believe that we are trying to find common ground on this. I've had a lot of conversations with my Republican friends from across the aisle, and honestly, folks from across different regions in Illinois who all are really working with one singular focus to try to address this in a humane and a smart way. And so, I think the criticisms will be the criticisms, but I think we'll find a way to get to a better spot in this.
So Representative Buckner moving forward with a host of other Democrats to address these issues. But obviously the issues are not just taxpayer issues, they're humanitarian issues. And yesterday at an unrelated event in Alton, Governor J.B. Pritzker, he was asked about the reports out of Chicago of city officials there being made aware of unsanitary conditions at a migrant shelter weeks before a migrant child died there. But the governor talks about how the state and the city have a priority to take care of migrants who are being transported from the southern U.S. border to a state like Illinois.
Well, I haven't heard their response, so it's hard for me. I did see the report. I haven't heard their response to it. I think we all understand, and the mayor and his administration understand, that we are trying to keep, in very difficult circumstances, trying to keep people safe in shelters as we're moving them on to more permanent housing and jobs. So I know that's the mayor's dedicated to that, as am I. As you know, we opened a facility very recently, the state did, that is in the city's DFSS network at CVS in Little Village. And it's a phenomenal new facility, and I think people certainly will be safe and healthy there. I expect that is the goal for all the facilities, shelters that the city is running.
So again, the governor being asked about the migrant situation, but Republicans demanding more transparency. You had State Representative Dan Calkins, who traveled to the southern U.S. border, as I reported with the CenterSquare.com, talking about this issue, saying, let people come in from all the neighborhoods that are affected, Calkins said. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it out in the open, not some small working group that's going to give cover to the governor, saying, oh, we'll figure it out. You also had State Representative Blaine Wilhauer address the ongoing disaster proclamations. And again, follow me on thecentersquare.com/Illinois, and you can watch those comments as well. Wilhauer saying that the governor spent the majority of his tenure in the state of Illinois operating under emergency orders, declaration proclamations, disaster proclamations, and basically initiatives that subvert the legislative branch. And he said it's time for the legislature to get involved here. So again, check the Illinois page for thecentersquare.com. That was just one thing they did in the Illinois State House, some of the conversation. Another one, rather fascinating, is this idea of possibly having some tax credits to spur on more local journalism. This coming from the Local Journalism Task Force, and the headline there from my colleague Kevin Bessler with the Center Square: tax credits among policies being considered to revive local journalism in Illinois. So you had a coalition of lawmakers from both sides, Republican, Democrats, and also various members of the media and people who are in academia, teaching journalists, and they put out this report that ultimately, if you find the page for the Center Square, you can download the report yourself. We'll just take a look at it here. It talks about the state of journalism in the state of Illinois, and it provides some overviews of what are considered news deserts and the total number of news outlets in various counties. Some have more than 3, but others have no news outlets. So a lot of research going into this, and apparently Illinois also led the nation in the number of newspaper reporters that were fired. So some of the proposals that they have laid out here are that, they've got probably some subscription tax credits. If you subscribe to local media, maybe you can get a tax credit. And that's one option that a couple of states have floated. Another option is advertising tax credits. If you're a business and you advertise with a local news outlet, you can get some tax credits. So that's another idea. Labor and payroll tax credits for certain types of local media. That's another idea that they're floating. Tax exemptions. And also you've got advertising set-asides being proposed, as well as just the idea of grant programs and consortiums providing funding to local organizations. Now, how taxpayer dollars could be used with that's another question altogether. But clearly there's some ongoing suggestions here to spur on more local media, which I think everybody can agree we need more of that local media to cover things happening with your local governments. But a state like Illinois, we have the most local governments of any state our size. I think it's like 8,000 plus local governments. I mean, that's city government, village government, and then township government on top of that. And then on top of that, you've got county government. And then on top of that, you've got state government. And then on top of that, you've got, judicial jurisdictions and so on. Library districts, park districts, forest preserve districts, all of these taxing bodies, which is what a government is. It's a taxing body. So trying to cover all of that for any news outlet is clearly something that is worth being very judicious about, but having the resources to do so, not quite there. It's a different landscape. So we'll watch this space as well to see what happens, especially if tax dollars are going to be involved. And as State Senator Don DeWitt said yesterday at that news conference, he said, when state funding's involved, I fear there's a real chance that those who receive those subsidies may feel indebted to the grantor. So obviously you can hear more about those comments. Go to thesenatorsquare.com/Illinois. Check out the headline, Tax Credits Among Policies Being Considered for Reviving Local Journalism in the State of Illinois. Some of the other things discussed, trying to lower prices of prescription drugs. There was a news conference on that, but the State House really, they just came in, gavelled in, got their per diem, got their travel, and then they headed home. Today's session days are canceled. They'll be back on February 6th, so we'll be monitoring all of that with you here with Bishop on Air. Greatly appreciate you guys tuning in each and every weekday morning. Hopefully you're staying informed and staying warm, but we'll be back at it tomorrow to wrap up a week of coverage for all of you. X, Facebook, YouTube. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Appreciate you guys tuning in. And if you like what you see, be sure to check out some of the merchandise below, or go to bishoponair.com. All right, guys, that's all I got. Have yourselves a wonderful rest of the day. I got to get to work. Chase some people around with some microphones and see what we can do. Just looking at some of the comments here. Hazel Eyes, Bishop, you're one of the most transparent, honest, clean-cut information journalists. I'm in Southern Illinois, and most news reporters here are biased and half-ass information. Thank you. Appreciate that. Warbot, you take care as well. Just looking at some of these most recent comments. I love the accolades, guys. Keep it up. Of course, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. And we shall see you soon. All right. Have yourselves a wonderful rest of the day. We'll be back at it tomorrow morning, wrap up the week. Got to get out of here, though. All right. Be safe.